So the past few weeks I've been watching a lot of Equestria Girls, and for the most part I think they were pretty good. While the original perception of Equestria Girls wasn't that great, as it kind of removed the whole pony part of My Little Pony and was a pretty obvious cash grab, the spin-off has evolved over time and is now pretty well liked amongst the fan base, with some even considering it better than the main series. However, just like all great shows, there are bound to be a few bad eggs, and while I like the majority of it, I also found some of the installments either a bit boring or just straight up pointless, and so I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best. Pretty much all my statements about these shows will be pretty subjective, so feel free to disagree with any of my takes, but please remain respectful and don't take anything I say too seriously. Also, I'm going to be grossly oversimplifying the movies and specials, so this doesn't end up being several hours long, so there'll definitely be things that I skip over. I'll probably go more in depth into the things I liked and disliked about the films the closer we get to the favourites, as the ones near the bottom of the list I found mostly to be just pretty boring and unnecessary, and honestly I didn't really watch them as much because of that. There will definitely be spoilers ahead, so I highly recommend you watch them first if you haven't already, and let's get right into the rankings. This special revolves around Rarity and Applejack during their summer break, where Rarity gets a job in a theme park as a fashion designer, whilst Applejack fails to get a job at the caramel apple stand, causing some animosity between the pair. The villain of the special is Vignette Valencia, who in my opinion is ironically forgettable, since she's a social media star, but her entire personality and character can pretty much just be summarized as obsessive selfie person. Her phone gets laced with equestrian magic, which makes anything she takes a photo of get zapped away, where she can then customize it and bring a virtual hologram version of it back into reality. She begins trapping the Humane Seven to turn their band into her own image until Applejack and Rarity go and save them. In my opinion, this part of the show has the laziest writing in the entire franchise, as it turns out the phone just transports stuff into this white room inside of the carnival, instead of being trapped inside her phone or the internet, which would have been kind of interesting. But I guess that's what happens when you spend 90% of a special on something completely irrelevant to the story, like Sunset and Twilight failing to throw a ring around a bottle. Anyways, the Humane Seven use their pony power to destroy Vignette's phone, and then play their music together. The reason I put this special at the bottom is because for me, it just wasn't really very engaging, and the writing kind of just seemed really lazy. Most of the entire special was kind of just filler activities that had no actual bearing to the plot, which kind of just made the whole thing seem a little pointless. This special is only 20 minutes, and is the first part of a 3-part Magical Movie Night special, so it's understandable that the plot is rather simple. This is another Rarity-centered special, where the Humane Seven take part in a music and dance video competition, with the prize money going to be used to save Camp Everfree from the 4th movie. A group from Crystal Prep steals the Humane Seven's idea for their dance video, and their two groups start trying to outdo each other. However, they both find that the Humane Seven create better music, whilst the Crystal Prep students have better dance choreography, so they decide to work together to make one video and they share the prize money, saving Camp Everfree. Whilst I don't really have anything against this special, I kind of just thought the story was pretty generic and nothing much really developed from here despite it being the first part of a 3-part series, so I kind of just felt it was a missed opportunity. The only references to it in the later parts is some background advertising boards or something, and one comment from the director in the second part, who calls them the girls who saved Camp Everfree, which they also did in the 4th movie anyways, which kind of makes this a bit redundant. This one was okay, and the only reason why I put it down here was because I just thought it was pretty unnecessary, and there wasn't really much about it that I absolutely loved.
Don't suppose. You really think Princess Twilight would be okay with that? I don't know for sure that she wouldn't be okay with it. That's not a particularly compelling argument.
Mirror Magic is the third part of the Magical Movie Night specials. In this special, Juniper Montage, the daughter of the director in Movie Magic, gets a magic mirror which can absorb people and objects whenever she wishes. Meanwhile, Sunset's journal that connects to Twilight runs out of pages, so she goes through to the Pony World to get another. At this time, the rest of the Humane Seven go to the cinemas to see their new movie, where they run into Juniper Montage. Due to the Humane Seven getting her kicked off of the Daring Do set, she wishes them away and accidentally causes the mirror to absorb them and their equestrian magic. Sunset gets the messaging book from Starlight as Twilight and the main six were off on a friendship quest. The two then decide to go to the human world together and arrive at the cinemas. Here, Juniper absorbs Sunset, and due to the combined equestrian magic of the Humane Seven, she transforms into a monster. Starlight takes the mirror, which then starts to crack due to their scuffle, and she eventually convinces Juniper to release everyone right before it breaks. My main criticism of this special comes from how underwhelming the plot is, but this could probably be excusable by how short it is. However, I have seen some episodes from the main series with better story and development than this special, which is kind of disappointing considering how this is the finale of the Magical Movie Night trilogy. And while I love Starlight Glimmer, her inclusion in the special kind of felt a bit unnecessary, and I feel like it would have probably fit much better if Sunset or Sci-Twi managed to talk Juniper out of using the mirror. Overall, I found the special kind of underwhelming, and the only good thing I really have to say about it is that it's kind of just a better version of Rollercoaster of Friendship.
Potatoes get mashed, then evaporate into potato moisture where they converge into potato clouds. And when those clouds can't hold the weight, that's where the potato flakes come from. Or is it potato chips? Am I missing something?
This one isn't really a proper special in my opinion, as it's kind of just a collection of 7-minute shorts about the Christmas holidays. I'm not going to recap these because they're pretty disconnected from each other, but I'll give a brief overview on what they're about. Blizzard or Bust. The Humane Seven oversleep and try to cancel school to avoid their exam. Saving Pinky's Pie. Pinky and Sunset navigate a snowball warfield to deliver a souffle to Rarity. The Cider Louse Fools. Sci-Twi helps the Apple family protect their cider from Flim and Flam. Winter Break-In. The Humane Seven devise plans to break into their school to retrieve their storage key. Dashing Through the Mall. Rainbow Dash forgets to buy Fluttershy a gift. O Come All Ye Squashful. The main seven do a vegetable-themed holiday photo shoot. While these shorts are pretty good, and I did find some of them a bit funny, they didn't really have any relevance to the rest of the Equestria Girls series, and the fact that it was the final special, making it the end of the series, is also a bit of a downer, because there wasn't really any proper send-off like a graduation or anything. Just a bunch of holiday filler stuff, which is honestly pretty disappointing, and there isn't really a whole lot more to say about this.
Unleash the magic, unleash the magic. We're not friends here after all. Our only interest in this business is seeing Canterlot High School.
I personally thought that this movie wasn't really the greatest, so I'll put it as the lowest of the four main movies, and while I did find it quite enjoyable at times, I personally just didn't really find this movie as engaging as the other three. In this movie, Canterlot High faces against Crystal Prep in a series of games. Here we're introduced to the human version of Twilight, a really smart, science-obsessed, and rather antisocial Crystal Prep student who kind of feels a bit like Season 1 Twilight in my opinion. She creates a device that can detect and absorb equestrian magic, as she aims to understand what it is and how it works, and she accidentally absorbs the magic of the Humane Six. The resulting overflow of magic in the device becomes difficult to control, causing rifts between the human and pony worlds and endangering the lives of the students. Principal Cinch then convinces Sidetwi to unleash the stolen magic to win the friendship games, turning her into Midnight Sparkle. The Humane Six then use their friendship to regain their magic, which Sunset then collects to become Daydream Shimmer, defeating Twilight and saving her from her alter ego. Due to the circumstances surrounding the magic, the games were declared a draw and Twilight changed schools to Canterlot High to be with her new friends. I quite like the story and character growth of Sidetwi, similar to that of Sunset's redemption in the first movie, except I honestly think it works a lot better here, as Sidetwi is the main focus of this movie, unlike Sunset, whose redemption kinda felt a bit forced. The reason why I didn't really find this movie very engaging is mostly due to how it felt like it was trying to do too much, and ended up making a lot of events seem rather shallow. For example, the scenes where we see Sidetwi absorbing Rarity and Pinky's magic feel a little rushed to me, as the plot kind of just forces them to do something that'll make them pony up for something like a minute, and then immediately have them lose their magic. I understand this is to help move the plot forward faster, but I'd prefer to see something more like how Rainbow Dash and Applejack pony up during an event. Speaking of which, despite this movie being titled Friendship Games, the only game we actually properly see is the Tricross Relay, which only lasts around 7.5 minutes, or roughly 10% of the entire movie, and to me it kind of just felt like they sidelined the entire Friendship Games part for another magic story. Overall, I think the movie was okay, and it had some decent character development, but it really lacked a lot of depth and creativity, and honestly I just don't think it really stands up to the other movies of the series.
A memory forgotten until the end of time.
Hey, what are you doing?
Okay, I know this one's one of the more popular specials, so having it near the middle might seem a little unusual, but let me explain. I hate Wallflower. Yes, this ranking is incredibly biased. This special centers around Sunset as her friends mysteriously forget her redemption from the first movie, seeing her only as a past bully self. At the start, the Humane Seven are talking about their yearbook and were introduced to Wallflower Blush, a quiet, forgotten student. Trixie comes in demanding to be given the title of Greatest, Most Powerfulest, and after Sunset refuses on the basis that it's not a real thing, Trixie uses her great and powerful magic to not leave the room. Anyways, the next day, Sunset meets with the group at the beach, where they immediately become hostile, after having forgotten every good memory of her. Sunset goes to Pony Twilight to find a solution, and they discover a relic called the Memory Stone, which, surprise surprise, can erase memories. Sunset confronts Trixie, believing it was her way of getting revenge against her for not letting her be the greatest, most powerfulest, but it turns out not to be Trixie. Sunset and Trixie then go to the yearbook room, where Sunset used her magic on Wallflower to discover that it was her that used the Memory Stone. Wallflower erased their memory of this event, but Sunset had recorded the entire interaction and chased Wallflower outside the school, where coincidentally they happened to be right next to the rest of the group. Wallflower attempts to erase all their memories, but Sunset sacrifices herself, causing her to lose all her memories of the human world. The rest of the Humane Seven, seeing this, forgive Sunset, and together they destroy the Memory Stone, restoring all their memories. I actually like this special for its story and development of Sunset, as she has to face her past actions. Its story actually flowed pretty nicely, and it's probably got some of the best pacing out of all the movies and specials. Considering these points, you may ask why I put this so low. Like I mentioned earlier, the only thing I dislike about this episode is Wallflower. Her introduction was alright, but she didn't really feel like a very developed antagonist, as her entire thing was just being forgettable. Her motives for attacking Sunset was simply jealousy, and while that's often the case for many villains, her actions at the end kinda just made her seem irrational and unlikable. Sunset was trying to connect with her and become friends and help her, and her response was just to ruin the lives of 6 good people and psychologically traumatize Sunset. Now, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, this is psychopathic, and the fact that she victimizes herself afterwards is just horrible. Wallflower also completely disregards all of Sunset's hard work into reshaping her image and decides to cowardly sabotage her with magic instead of addressing her own social issues. Getting back on track, the only other issue I have with this special is how the setup of Trixie being a red herring was pretty obvious, as they wouldn't really introduce a random, completely new character, only for her to play no major role in the show, making it pretty obvious that Wallflower was the villain from the beginning. Overall, the actual special was pretty good, and I pretty much just hate Wallflower, and that's the only reason why it's really this slow.
So get up, get down. If you're gonna come around, we can work together, helping Twilight win the crown. So get up, get down, 'cause it's gonna make a sound. If we work together, helping Twilight Sparkle win the crown.
This one is probably only up this high because of nostalgia, but it's also one that I've come back to a lot. The movie starts shortly after the ending of Season 3, where the main 6 visit the Crystal Empire with the other princesses. During the night, a mysterious pony steals Twilight's crown, containing the element of magic, and disappears through a magic mirror portal into a parallel human world. Twilight and Spike follow her through, knowing that the portal will close in 3 days, and won't reopen for another 30 moons. She finds out that the crown was taken into Principal Celestia's office, and the only way to get it back was to win it by becoming Princess of the Fall Formal. She also discovers that the main 6 aren't friends in this parallel world, so Twilight runs for Princess and also reunites the main 6 by showing them how all their problems were caused by Sunset trying to separate them. With the group back together, they manage to get everyone to vote for Twilight, despite Sunset's attempts to sabotage her, and she gets her crown back. However, during the Fall Formal, Sunset kidnaps Spike and threatens to destroy the portal unless Twilight hands over the crown. Twilight refuses, and they both end up fighting over the crown. Sunset ends up with the crown and puts it on, turning into Demon Sunset, and brainwashes the school to try to take over Equestria. The main 6 get together and use the magic of friendship to defeat Sunset, causing her to have a change of heart, becoming friends with the main 6, and after a quick dance, Twilight goes back to Equestria with the crown. Originally, I had put this movie higher on the list, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were actually quite a lot of flaws in the story. I won't cover too many of these because that would probably make the video way too long, and I'm not really bothered to do that, so I'll probably just point out a few that really stood out to me. My first issue is with how generic and basic the story was. The special is pretty much just a basic high school life story with a bit of magic at the end, and it really didn't feel much like a My Little Pony movie. My other main issue with this movie is Sunset's redemption at the end. While she's probably my favourite character in this entire spin-off series, her redemption at the end of this film doesn't really seem natural to me, as she's pretty much shown no character development as a villain beyond just actively hating Twilight. I probably would have liked to see some exchange between Demon Sunset and the main 6 that would cause her to have this change of heart, rather than only having a magic rainbow laser, as it probably would have created some kind of justification for her redemption. As for the things I enjoyed about this movie, I quite liked watching Twilight adjust to the human world, as I thought it was pretty funny, and the scene where the main 6 put on the Wonder Colt's costume in the cafeteria is also pretty memorable. However, I think the only reason why this movie is this high on my list is probably just nostalgia, because I realized I don't actually have a lot to say on why I liked it, but I do enjoy watching it occasionally.
No one will be able to stop me, and Maripor will fall. For I am Starward Stallion!
Whoa, whoa!
Ah, cut!
Sorry,
Movie Magic is the second of the 3-part Magical Movie Night specials, and in this special, the Humane 7 are invited to the Daring Do movie set, where they attempt to find out who was sabotaging the movie. The special starts with the group getting invited to watch the filming of the movie, and following a break in the shooting due to a missing costume, they split up to see different things around the studio. Rarity and Fluttershy go to see the star, Chestnut Magnifico, Pinky and Spike go to the buffet, Sunset and Applejack go to see the sets, and Rainbow Dash and Twilight go to see the props. Fluttershy and Rarity overhear Chestnut talking about shutting down a project, and Twilight and Rainbow Dash meet Juniper Montage, daughter of the director and fan of Daring Do. The group then go back to the filming set, where it starts to break during the shooting, and the props for the film go missing. Since the contract with its star, Chestnut, was almost over, the director feared he would have to stop production. When Fluttershy and Rarity tell the others about what they overheard Chestnut say, the Humane 7 suspect her of sabotaging the movie, so Sunset, Fluttershy, and Pinky go to check up on her. After they leave, the group sees a mysterious thieving cloaked figure, which they begin to chase. Following a long chase sequence, Rainbow Dash, being separated from the others, follows the cloaked figure into a storage room, where she finds a missing costume but gets locked inside. The rest of the group quickly find her due to a trail of chocolate pudding, freeing her with Twilight's magic. They then go back to the movie set, where they explain how despite not having the relics yet, they assume they haven't left the set yet since they found the costume in the supply closet. The scene then cuts to the cloaked figure moving to the relics, where it turns out to be Juniper, having been secretly followed by the Humane 7. Juniper goes on to say about how she was sabotaging the movie so Chestnut would leave, thus allowing her to potentially play Daring Do, and she gets kicked off the set. Chestnut then comes in stating how she had cancelled a different contract, allowing her to stay on the Daring Do set, and the Humane 7 get to perform in minor background roles. Some of the positives about this special is, despite only being around 20 minutes, it manages to create a very cohesive story with a pretty engaging mystery, and the red herring that was Chestnut was also written in very well. I also like how the power ponies are a thing in this alternate world too, but considering that they aren't really ponies anymore, the name doesn't really make as much sense. My main criticism of this special is just how despite there being the Chestnut red herring, it was pretty obvious after a little bit that Juniper would be the main villain of the story, just like Wallflower in Forgotten Friendship. But overall, in my opinion, this special was a pretty good watch, and it's definitely underrated. While this one's probably an unpopular opinion based on what I've read online, I actually really enjoy this one. I know a lot of people don't like it for its portrayal of Rainbow Dash, but in my opinion, her behaviour and antics are actually pretty in line with the real Rainbow Dash, as a lot of the first act in this special revolves around her constantly trying to find a villain to fight, creating problems for her and her friends, pretty similar to the mysterious Ne'er-do-well episode from Season 2. Another major criticism I see is that this part of the special is kind of dragged out a lot, which I actually agree with, as it lasts almost 20 minutes, which is like a third of the entire runtime. Anyways, in this special, the group take a vacation on a cruise, where they are constantly bothered by Rainbow Dash's antics, which result in things like Pinkie Pie being barred from entering the buffet. The boat travels into a very powerful storm, where Rainbow Dash sees a weird symbol and convinces an enemy, grabs the Humane 7 together. When they get back, the symbol's gone, and they dismiss her claims as just a natural phenomenon. Rainbow Dash, unwilling to accept this, takes a lifeboat and travels to a nearby island, and Twilight and Sunset follow her. Here we find a plant infused with equestrian magic, which tries to eat the three, and they escape through a hidden portal to Equestria. They then go visit Pony Twilight, who reveals that the symbol Rainbow Dash saw belongs to the Storm King, and that his magic probably escaped into the human world. Back in the human world, the boat begins to fall apart from the Storm King's attacks, causing it to start sinking. Twilight, Sunset, and Rainbow Dash return to the cruise, and they use the staff from the My Little Pony movie to capture the rogue magic, and the storm disappears. The Humane 7 rescue everyone from the boats, and they use the new portal to get everyone home. My main criticisms of this special is just that some of its jokes or scenes are a bit overplayed, like that Rainbow Dash one I mentioned earlier, and this scene where the two Twilights, Sunset, and Rainbow Dash are having a light-hearted discussion juxtaposed by the chaos that is the boat sinking. While it was a bit funny at first, it kind of feels like they dragged it out a little too long, but other than that, I actually really like the story and the message it sends. The events surrounding Rainbow Dash tells a similar story to The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and it teaches us that we shouldn't cause unnecessary trouble, as if you do eventually need help, people will be less likely to believe you. Overall, I think this special gets a lot more hate than it deserves, and I personally really like it, despite some of its pacing issues, as its story was pretty engaging and fun to watch in my opinion.
Let's have a battle, battle of the bands. Let's have a battle, we'll go all in it. Let's have a battle, 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 battle of the bands.
I can beat you!
Despite Rainbow Rocks being the most popular movie as far as I'm aware, I personally prefer Legend of Everfree over this one, and honestly, while it is a great movie, it is also a little overrated in my opinion. In this movie, the Dazzlings go to Canterlot High after seeing equestrian magic emanating from it during the events of the first movie, and using their magic, they brainwash the school in hopes of absorbing all the magic in the school during the upcoming Canterlot High Music Festival. Sunset contacts Twilight through a magic book that links their two worlds, and she discovers that the Dazzlings were the ancient sirens who could control people with their song and feed off negative emotions, absorbing magic into their pendants. Twilight manages to use the magic in the book to reopen the portal to the human world, and joins the group's band, the Rain Booms, and begins to work on a counterspell. The tournament begins, and unsurprisingly, the Dazzlings make it to the finals, but in the semi-final round between Trixie and the Rain Booms, Trixie successfully provokes Rainbow Dash into playing selfishly and ruining their performance. However, since the school was under the control of the Dazzlings, the Rain Booms get selected for the final round anyways. Before the finals begin, the Dazzlings approach Trixie and convince her to sabotage the Rain Booms, trapping them in a room beneath the stage. The group begins arguing, allowing the Dazzlings to begin absorbing their magic as they sing. However, Sunset manages to calm them down and work together, and after escaping the room with the help of Spike, they begin playing with equipment provided by Vinyl Scratch. Together, the Humane 7 overpower the Dazzlings, causing their pendants to break and preventing them from using magic ever again. There are a lot of good things about this movie, which is why it's often considered the best in the series. For starters, the music in this movie is some of the best, which, looking back at it, isn't too surprising, as half of the entire premise of this movie is about singing. Sunset struggling to face her past actions as she tries to find acceptance within the school was also a very strong way to continue her story, and her finding her place within the Humane 7 at the end was a nice way to finish her redemption arc. The villains in this movie also have pretty distinct personalities, which makes them pretty compelling characters, and unlike in friendship games, its Battle of the Bands theme actually plays into the plot really well. However, I did find it a little disappointing that they didn't really explore the Flash Sentry dynamic any further in this movie, and he was kind of just disregarded and sidelined after the first movie, and doesn't really do much here or in subsequent films. The plot was also pretty predictable, and there wasn't really anything surprising or different about this movie, and I feel it kind of lacked a bit of depth in the plot, which is why I personally don't have it at the top, but overall it was a pretty good movie and definitely one of the best in the series.
I have waited for the day to send this greedy wolf away. Now the magic is my salvation. Gather close in my protection. We will
The Legend of Everfree is probably my favourite out of all the 4 main movies, as in my opinion, it just has the best story, characters and music out of all of them. This movie centers on Saitwai having to face her fears of Midnight Sparkle after the events of Friendship Games, and at the start, Saitwai has a lot of nightmares about her dark persona and fears it could take over her once again. The Humane Seven then arrive at Camp Everfree, where they each acquire magical abilities. This influx of magic causes Saitwai to fear, as she believes it could be the work of Midnight Sparkle. Following this, Sunset sees a shady figure entering a cave, and gets Saitwai to investigate with her. Here they come across the camp supervisor, Gloriosa, in possession of 7 magical geodes responsible for the magic within the camp. Sunset uses her new empathic abilities to view her memories, and discovers that Camp Everfree was being shut down by Filthy Rich, leading Gloriosa to use the geodes and transform into a plant demon, and surround the camp with large plant walls. The Humane Seven work together using their new magic to stop Gloriosa, and after Twilight embraces her magic, dispelling Midnight Sparkle, they defeat her and save the campers. Finally, the students of Canterlot High work together to raise money to save Camp Everfree. There's also a subplot about the school building a dock, but I personally don't think that's relevant to the story. Anyways, there's only really one thing I dislike about this movie, and again, just like in Rainbow Rocks, I would have liked to see the dynamic between Saitwai and Flash Sentry, especially considering that this Twilight is not the same as the one he knows, but instead all we really get is like a throwaway scene with Sunset pretty much just telling him to move on. However, this isn't really a big issue since the series was already steering away from the Flash Sentry romance stuff back in Rainbow Rocks, so it doesn't really change the dynamic of the show in any way. I absolutely love the music in this movie, and Gloriosa's We Will Stand Forever Free is my absolute favourite in the entire Equestria Girls series, and overall, probably my second favourite song of the whole franchise. I love how despite having like 3 plots occurring throughout the movie, they all blend together really nicely, making a rather complex story. I especially like the Saitwai Midnight Sparkle arc in this movie, as despite sidelining the main villain a little bit, it serves as an interesting way of driving the story forward and introducing internal conflicts within Saitwai, helping to develop her character further after Friendship Games, without just having another simple generic villain. Overall, I would say Legend of Everfree is probably the best of the 4 main movies, as I thought the plot, music and character development of this one was definitely some of the best in the series, and there just wasn't really a lot I disliked about it. Finally, we're here at my favourite, Sunset's Backstage Pass. This special involves a time loop where Sunset has to relive the same day over and over again. It starts with the Humane Seven going to the Starswell Music Festival, where both Sunset and Pinkie are really excited to see their favourite band, Post Crush, perform. However, due to Pinkie being Pinkie, they end up getting kicked out of the festival and miss the performance. Devastated, Sunset wishes to redo the day all over again, and magically when she wakes up, it's the first day of the festival. Originally, she was ecstatic to have the opportunity to watch Post Crush again, but due to Pinkie, she gets kicked out again and the day restarts. So the next day she avoids Pinkie and gets to watch the show. However, when she wakes up, it was still the exact same day again. This goes on for weeks and Sunset slowly gets more irritable. She tries to escape the loop by driving as far away as she can, but to no avail. During the discussion with Pony Twilight, she discovers that the cause of the time loop is an artifact called the Time Twirler. Here they find the Dazzlings, who they suspect to be the culprits behind the time loop, but after investigating their van, it's revealed that they're just ordinary people now and have nothing to do with the Time Twirler. However, during this confrontation, she accidentally hurts Pinky's feelings as she complains about her ruining the day all the time. She comes to the realization that Pinky deserves to have a good day just as much as she does, and resolves to just have a fun time with her. They get an opportunity to deliver churros to Post Crush, where it's revealed that they are behind the time looping, as they want to have the perfect performance. Sunset and Pinky manage to destroy the Time Twirler, and show Post Crush that their fans didn't want a perfect show, they just wanted to see them play their music and have fun together. Finally, the time loop ends, and Pinky and Sunset begin Star Swirl Day 2. There's quite a lot to cover for what I liked about this special, which I guess makes a lot of sense considering it's my favourite. I personally love time looping stories, so I might be a bit biased towards the special if I'm completely honest. I thought the pacing was probably some of the best in the series, as there wasn't really much filler in this special, and I believe we could really feel Sunset slowly losing her hope and sanity throughout. Her resolution to spend time with Pinky is what ultimately led her to solving the problem, and it was probably one of the best endings in the series, as it used the magic of friendship in a less literal shoot magical laser beams thing, and more of a way to just get through tough times and find solutions together with others, which was really refreshing to see. I thought the Sunset Pinky dynamic was quite entertaining and definitely the best out of all the possible Sunset duos, as their personalities are very different, Pinky being chaotic and energetic, while Sunset is usually pretty relaxed and controlled, driving most of the conflict within the special. The Dazzling's inclusion as a red herring, with the actual perpetrators of the time loop being Post Crush, was actually unexpected for me, and this is probably the only instance in the Equestria Girls series where I think the twist villain reveal actually worked. I don't really have any complaints about this special, but some of the things I've seen people dislike involve Pinky's portrayal, as some of them found her a bit annoying, and stuff like how Post Crush didn't really get any development as villains. However, personally I always thought the things that Pinky was doing was pretty much the same as normal Pinky, as she's always been pretty random and chaotic, and in regards to Post Crush, I don't really mind their lack of development, as the story was mainly centered around Sunset learning to value and prioritize friendship over selfish desires like the perfect day with Post Crush. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I would probably be pretty mad at Pinky too. Anyways, that's my ranking for the Equestria Girls movies and specials. I hope you enjoyed watching, and feel free to voice your own opinions and share your thoughts on these films, and I'll catch you in the next one.